This is Good Chat, a conversation where Sunday truth meets our weekday lives.
It's been good talking to you. It's been good talking to you.
So there was a lot of flexing that muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that whole, what do you do when things still aren't better? I still don't have a job. My marriage still isn't fixed. Somebody, still isn't healed, whatever. How does a person how does a person not lose hope in that? I mean, just like you walked through it with your dad. But your wife walked through it, and you with her, in the loss of her sister. Like, how does one not despair in that? What do you do? Like, how did you do that?
Yeah. God's faithfulness in the past, the same yesterday, today, and forever is Jesus. I'm holding on to him with like a death grip. And part of it too is this idea of perspective, because those are completely uncharted territories for us. Cancer,
Sure.
The big C word. I hate that word.
Me too.
Anytime I hear it. Living overseas, adoption, special needs. This is all like military, kids going to the military. I'm like, I wasn't military.
Right.
They start asking me questions. I'm like, I've got no idea, but I know the principles and I know the perspective that if God's got us through this, he's not done.
Right.
And if he is done, then we have that hope of what's to come that will translate it. And now there is no more barrier between us and him. Like, we will see him. I think that when Peter's talking about in that first chapter, like, you love him even though you don't see him. Coming from a guy that saw Jesus.
Right.
Talking to a bunch of people who had never seen him before that are just taking it by faith. And I think Jesus hit that point as well with Thomas. He said, blessed are those that believe and don't see. Like, you're seeing finger hole side. I'm
right.
like, I would totally be right there with Thomas too. If I had the opportunity to
Sure.
be like, is this thing on? Like,
Ding, ding, ding.
but yet Jesus is like, it is a blessing for you to go out and walk that in such a way that even when you don't see it, either we're stepping off this cliff and you're going to grow wings, or there's going to be solid ground. And every time I've let God make that decision, I haven't preempted it. I've tried not to go, well, this story's closed and close the book. I've tried to keep reading it, keep turning the chapter, use another metaphor, like keep bouncing the ball back to the Lord. Like, the ball's in your court. Like, if the ball is in my court and I'm supposed to do something like trust him or praise him even in the hardest times, like give thanks in all things.
Right.
All things in the Greek is all things.
Right.
And man, it means so much coming from a life that was really broken. It was interesting, when we were in New Zealand, we met a lot of missionaries, a lot of expats and, expatriates and things. We had some missionaries from England that were pastoring in the States. And they're like, missionaries right now most of them are coming from Brazil. They're so fired up. And they're not like Americans that need a comfy bed and air conditioning. Americans used to be that, but not so anymore. And I'm like, well, how do you get there? Because we're pretty comfortable in our world. And they started quoting Elizabeth Elliot because they knew Elizabeth Elliot.
Oof.
And I'm like, okay, I'm all ears. And they said, we asked that same question of Elizabeth Elliot. The one you just asked me, they asked Elizabeth Elliot. And you don't know her story, like Jim Elliot, her husband, and
Sure.
the Aka Indians, and the whole thing in the Amazon. She's like, I take the pain, that hurt, and I put it on the altar, and that becomes my worship.
Whoa.
The thing that would seemingly drive me the furthest away and question the most is the thing I make my worship. And when I do that, the Lord just lights it on fire. And I'm like, dang, I haven't experienced anything. So the idea of perspective and hearing that from that woman and what she went through, she's like a superhero.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, I don't know anyone who's familiar with her story or their story who doesn't think, oh my goodness. I mean, to have that kind of faith. So it's it's like, I love that you're either going to grow wings or land on solid ground, but either way you're going to step out because that's what God's called you to do. I look at, you're talking about uncharted territory. You know, when you've got little Smalley McSmalls at home and you're just trying to keep them alive, you know, they're climbers or whatever.
Keep feeding them, they keep growing.
Like,
Like,
right.
how does this work?
And you're just trying to keep, but then, you know, they become teenagers. That's a whole other therapy session when you've got teenagers and that uncharted space and the heartbreak that often comes with that and things, and then young adults. But then I look at people when they're young. Let's just say they're junior high age, and they've got this space in their life where there's some brokenheartedness, need hope, and that not always, but it seems like the younger ones don't always hit the major traumas. They can and they do, but they get these little steps of practicing trusting and being hopeful. And it's almost like we build a muscle in that. Sometimes it's just catastrophic and they're learning it from when they're young, and old people like me look at them and go, my goodness, to have that kind of faith. But where I'm going with all of that is, you know, a lot of times we get to seeing people older than me who bumps come and they just kind of go, they barely even shake because they've been, it's like fire can't burn where fire's been, right? They've been through that. They've been through tough. They've watched God be faithful. And it's like, okay, this is rough, but God's good.
Yeah.
You know, so in the process of holding on to the Lord and cultivating hope, when you've been through all the things, and you're going to have, you know, more opportunities as your kids continue to grow and go, right? Yeah. How would you say to somebody who's maybe their mom, first kid, going through all the ups and downs of trying to figure out how I do this, how would you encourage her or the dad or whatever to nurture that hope? How would you encourage them to press in so that they can begin to experience some of that?
That's a good question. I know if you try to avoid the hard things, you're going to experience more hard. It's the going through it. And it's going through it not solo, but knowing who you're going through it with. I often think like Jesus coming alongside and saying, like, trust me, I've been this way before. Like, that's often the picture that I get. And he starts turning these brick walls, these proverbial brick walls, into like more of those speed bumps, like the elder saints are just like,
yeah, they just kind of boom.
Oh, like okay. You know, I don't know if that's just age and stage of life. There's more in the rear view than the front view. But if you're starting off,
there's perspective. Yeah.
Yes, and you know, a young mom or a young dad just going, man, this is a huge amount of responsibility.
Yeah.
I remember driving my kids home from the hospital going, I studied more to drive this car and get a car license than to be entrusted with this human life.
Absolutely true.
In the back of my car.
I drove like a little old man on the way home. I was just like...
I'm like, if they knew me, they probably wouldn't have let me leave the hospital. I mean, they checked the wristband. You're good.
Yeah.
I'm like, really?
Exactly right. Yep.
Are we good? And yet, as part of that growing and part of that developing, and then having grace with yourself too. Like somebody, like the best parenting advice I ever got. Well, the first one was, if it works, it works. Just go with it. Because everybody's telling you what worked for them, but it may not work for you, so whatever. This one was, you're only as old as a parent as your children are in their age. So I'm a 20-year-old parent. Mm-hmm. So I'm talking to people that have adult kids. Talked to our friend yesterday, daughter's wedding, $60,000.
Oh, gee, man.
And I'm like, is that like normal? And he's like, we're not doing anything too extravagant. And I'm like, oh my golly. Word. So that's a whole nother conversation. But, you know, to the younger parent, it's like, all right, pray more, worry less, have grace with yourself. And, you know, for that kiddo, like, you know, keep them alive, like in Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes, exactly right.
But just let him know that there is a living hope. That's why it's called living, because you're living it. It's not, a recipe or a formula that if I put, 1 + 1 + 1,
Right.
that's incredibly, and kids will throw you off that. As soon as you get a routine with a kiddo,
absolutely.
they're like, I'm not sleeping at that
They're
time.
little agenda breakers. Absolutely.
You thought it was this. It's like, all right, Lord. They become this teachable moment, and all of life is a teachable moment. Jesus never let one go. Like, he just grabbed those moments.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, look at that seed, look at that path, look at that bird, look at that tree, look at this thing, look at that person, look at that mom who's mourning their son. Like, look at every part of life was an opportunity in his hands. And so I have to trust in that. In my hands, I'm a little bit fearful. And so I try to get it out of my hands sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But then having those, I think, to your point, having those people that can kind of roll with it to go, tell me your story. Like, tell me what it was like. What advice would you give to your first year out of college self, first year of being a dad's self, first year of kids living out of the house? Like, I wasn't a hot mess, but I had hot crocodile tears flying home last weekend, dropping my kid off, like, in the military. I'm like, I still remember. And he's like, and he's telling me, he's like, Dad, I'm a man. I appreciate that you're here. I need to go.
Nice. You raised him well, though. He had the courage to say that.
Somebody else said that to me, and I'm like, I know, but part of being a man is letting your dad and mom help you as much as we can, because we can't always. And by us helping you, you're helping us. And later on in life, when we don't have all our marbles, you're going to be really helping us. But like, these roles are starting to shift. It's not static. It's always dynamic in that sense. So trying to get a pulse read of what's the Spirit saying, what he's doing. How can I make this teachable? Do we get it right? Heck no. Like, I've been a train wreck, and God's grace has been so good. I just keep testifying to that.
Yep. Well, the testifying reminds others. But like you said, even, maybe this is just for me. But sometimes that testifying is my reminder. Yeah. God has been faithful. You're talking about this, the living hope. It's not formulaic. It's active. And one of the things I love that you said was hope has a focus. Hope has an object. And it is on the living Christ. And so it's not in the sky by and by. It's whatever. It's rooted in a person. The person of Christ who's going to hold me, who's going to help me, who's going to guide me, who's going to help me navigate to see things that I wouldn't have seen on my own. That's fundamental, right? The relational aspect of that. But it's not limited to just, because I think very often people, they don't want to speak up about this hardship. Because I got Jesus, that's enough. Well, he is enough, but he's also built us for community. And so this idea you're talking about, going to somebody who's older, the seasoned saint, saying, how would you, and what did you? And I remember when I turned 40, how shocked I was.
I thought you were 38.
Thank you, that's nice of you. When I turned 40, how shocked I was that I didn't have anything figured out. Because I remember looking at people who were 40 or 50 thinking, they've got it dialed.
Surely by now I would have arrived at something
yes.
resembling
But
knowing.
the older I get, the more I realize I'm just more comfortable not knowing, but knowing the one who does. So I don't have to necessarily. He's got me. Yeah. But that's hard for us. This whole idea of it is Jesus, and Jesus has also given us one another to help navigate these roads and these tough places. My bride and I have been through some crazy, weird, difficult things. And if it wasn't for the body of Christ that he has given us to come alongside, we were also recipients of the, money out of nowhere or groceries someplace or whatever. Not since we've been at Foothills, but when we were at our other church or even in seminary. Amazing to see how God, and the idea of not being able to survive 3 seconds without hope, that whole, you watch what happens in people when the spark goes out, but also when it pops back on. Yeah. And they're like, I got a new, get up and get out.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I say something as a eternal optimist?
Please.
Somebody's like, you're the most optimist. And I'm like, well, glass half full, half empty. It could be totally empty. And I'm like, but I have a glass.
Right.
Like, it was designed for a purpose. One day it's going to be, even if it was shattered on the ground, I'd be like, well, we put this thing back together. This idea I've learned to lead with the hard.
Elaborate.
This idea that don't just gloss it over. Don't just pretend like, if I'm a real Christian, then if I had real faith, I would always be
right.
Every cliche bumper sticker Jesus thing. I would be living that. I've had to learn the hard way, and this has come through relationship and community, to lead with the hard and then qualify it with the greater reality. That yes, in this time, in this space, this is the battle, and it is full on, and it is somewhat relentless. And I'm really struggling. But I also know that I'm still here, and I still got some energy to struggle with, and that you're here and you're even listening to me right now. And I know at the end of this, God is going to have the final say in whatever this is. And so there is always hope.
Yeah.
So I'm going to eagerly expect it, but not in a Pollyannic type of way. And so that's been something I've had to learn. And you know what? It's those things that build bridges so much faster. People are just throwing out the bumper stickers. They're just like, man, I can't share something that I'm dealing with because that guy's just going to say like,
God will use all things for the good of those who love him.
And he will. And that is true. And equally so, he'll be with you in the rubble and the boil scraping of Job and the smoke in your nostrils of Jeremiah.
Or your parents.
And if he didn't spare them, like, are you greater than them? Like, are you immune to this? Are you some special? And like, the fact that Peter draws out and pulls on that thread or casts a light on the idea of your faith being more rich than gold. Not, hey, how did it end up on the other side? Your parents rebuilt the house they burned and it was really big. And so aren't you glad that happened? Like, we've had people say weird stuff like that.
Aren't you glad?
We've had people come up to us and say they've adopted dogs. And we're like, are you serious? Clearly. I'm like, well, that's great. Kids are a little bit different. Humans. Okay. We've adopted dogs too. Okay, just trying to wrap my head around that, where they're coming from, and just give them grace as much as possible. But when Peter shines a light on that, he's like, man, I'm not so worried about what the outcome is. You're probably going to have scars, and that scar is going to have scar tissue. And when it gets pressed on, you're going to feel a little bit of that. But man, your faith. I can't go share with about hope unless I've experienced it. It's just school taught.
Right. It's all theory.
But
There's all lecture, no lab.
This is the gnosko, the knowing through experience. And I think as you have the reality of the truth of the gospel and you have this experience, those two go hand in hand. And Peter's like, that's what I'm interested in. Even though you don't see him, you still believe. Even though you're not yet seeing him, you still rejoice. And that's being stored up for you. Somehow in God's economy, that's being banked in terms of faith. And it's worth more than gold.
Yes.
And some of us are like, I would just like a little bit of gold right now because I need to buy groceries.
Yeah, right.
And we've seen gas and all the stuff. And God's like, no. There's actually something, if you let me, there's something bigger going on here. If you let me peel that back a little bit.
Key, if you let me.
Yes.
If you don't white knuckle it, keep holding on to it. If you'll let me.
You can go through this thing first class with me, or you can be in the cargo hold getting bounced around. But we're airborne.
Ooh.
You're not jumping out. Let's go.
First class with me, or you can go cargo hold bumping around.
Yeah.
Dude, that'll preach.
I'm like, I'll stay first class with Jesus.
I will.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good word.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you. Good chat.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Good Chat is a podcast by Foothills Church located in Cameron Park, California. For more information about our church, visit foothillscp.org. Thanks for listening.